Messing with everything. This is pretty funny. It's kind of weird. I got a light so bright it would light this up, but I don't know. It's just they're really, I guess they really feel some kind of way. We're gonna get into that. Not into that, but let's show you. Whew. A little workout. A little tense. A little tense. Whew, child. So how's everybody doing? Man, I'm sore. was leaning this way, so I had the pillow. Man, the side was sore. How's it going? Excuse the lighting. It's the phone. It's nothing else. It's I don't want to give energy. It's just the way it's going to be for a moment. Maybe for good. I don't know. So we're going to move it closer. We're going to get into some reading. First, I want to talk about something. So I had this little, not an issue with me. This individual, this young lady who commented on this, as I stated yesterday, this post on Instagram. And it's sad to see so many melanated women so ignorant. And I kind of found out the backstory of the young lady in the room with the 3 gentlemen and where it's at. I'm not going to get into all that. And she was fighting them. Very disrespectful young melanated woman, but it's not with hate that I say it. I saw her be very negative, talking about as if it was a good thing for this young melanated woman to be fighting these 3 grown men who could have snuffed her lights out in a heartbeat. And we're dealing with this, whether it be in the cities, the suburbs, or even in the country. It shouldn't be happening, but there's a glitch in the matrix. I know people are questioning because I read about the Anunnaki, the Hathors, this, that, and other. Everything that's going on is like one big experiment, but it's worse than that. Is there an accelerated evolution of so-called primates? No. If that were the case, if it was for a selected few monkeys to be deliberately programmed and they re-engineered, that, are you aware of how many monkeys there are in this world? The different types of primates? There are many, even some unfounded, or found because there's so very few, you're not permitted to know of their existence. As you can see, they're pushing for the alien invasion next. I'm reading these books because they serve a purpose. Their existence is to deliberately condition, atone for, put you in direction, but at the same time, for you to find out whether they're elusively true or elusively allowing you to know something that you can get yourself together and make a better outcome for the situation. If the people don't get it together, whatever few there is, and join together and do what seems to be obviously the impossible, to at least to do it, well, the outcome will be, could be permanent. Now, I know I read about the source, light and energy. There's a reality and a truth to it. Yet, everyone has the opportunity to make change. The problem is, whatever they're doing is working so good, so well, that y'all choose against better judgment. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to read the last couple of paragraphs exposing the expositions of 1851 and 1950. I'm going to read the Iron Republic. And today is going to be a lot of reading. I don't have nowhere to go. I have some packages supposed to be coming in. I don't care about them. I don't feel like going out. I worked out. I'm pretty tense. I'm pretty tight. I even need to go out and get some more coconut water. I've got like 12. I want to have at least 30. I drink 1.5 to 2 a day. And tea. Then I'm going to go ahead and, for the sake of it, I'm going to actually start reading The Navigator Who Crossed the Ice Wall. There's a reason. I thought about it long. When I woke up this morning, my first wake up, I didn't have to go to the bathroom. I just woke up and I was laying in the bed on my back. It was raining. I hear the water beating up against the window. One of my favorite pastimes is to listen to the rain crash up against the side of the building in the window. And it was nice and cool. And it was like a voice says, read those now. So I'm going to read them. I'm going to read quite a bit. I hope you're not too pretentious. I hope that you can hang in there. And then later on, come on, and we'll go right into George and 13 Tribe and William Cooper And then after that, we're going to read the gods, Witchcraft of Eden, the gods of Eden, and the Anunnaki and the Hathors. I believe doing this is very important right now. So I listen to whatever voice comes to me. I don't have crazy voices telling me to go out and do that and do But I listen to that when I'm dreaming. I hate that word. I detest that word, dreaming. But whenever I'm walking and I wake up out of it, and I have to sit there and I want to question myself, but I've allowed myself to accept, and it's been right every time. So I'm going to read these things so you know. All right. Can't explain everything, though I would love to. I really can't. I don't know how to. I mean, I have to be honest. I don't know how to. Everything I've expressed to you has been serious. The last little video I did live, I saw that there's a lot of interference. It's disturbing, but I'm not perturbed by it. I just know that things have to happen. So we're going to go ahead and read Exposing Expositions, 1851, 1915, revised edition 2021 from the 2019 of Eddie Bukowski when the pandemic started. And it still has stuff. And I put it off for a while, but I felt like there was a reason for everything. So let's get into it. The era of these fairs was step one of the three-step process. The focus on technology to solve all of our problems and give us comfort, while removing the historical record of our past when humans lived well without the needs of much technology. Following the Second World War, we begin to see the change to a focus of societal and mind engineering, where the state would now decide what people should think and how they should live. With a focus of being happy and not offending anyone. Could you believe that? A state would now decide what people should think and how they should live, with a focus on or of being happy and not offending anyone. Now, the third stage toward a type of total world control, we might say, started sometime after 2001. That was the purpose of this is a statement I was going to make, and it alludes to this. If you want people to go to war, you kill some of your so-called own. That's what the government did. Now it predicates upon the young minds who want to get some get back, who have been full of all these movies and everything else about making repayments, Creed, Rocky, all this stuff. I'm gonna get some get back. I didn't win, but I'm going to go in there and give my best fight, or this, that, and the other. And so many other movies, Omaha Beach, The Landing, D-Day. Every time you turn around, it's something on war, Nova, cartels, drugs, this, that, and other. And who is always at the precipitous are the ones who create it. Okay, that light just covered up. All right, I just felt like I had to instill that so you can have another way to look at it. You can come up with your own consortiums of ideas of as to and why. Another notable theory that began to make the rounds in 2020, he put in parentheses, I got hold of it via the presentation of Nurture Conspiracy are Us. Okay, Conspiracy are Us, space us. And that the biblical presentation of Revelation, the 1,000-year return of Christ that Christians worldwide are waiting for, end of parenthesis, has already happened. The theory claims that the great dome buildings and towers worldwide were from this period where the Christ returned and 1,000 years of peace reigned, which is very interesting to the idea of flamenco, that 1,000 years were removed from the historical records. I've been saying that for a long time. I didn't read this part, y'all. I said I would hold off on it. And I've been telling you 5 to 8 to 1,000 years. Just added or removed. Is it reverse or before? Anyway. One suggestion is that the depiction of the mythical figure of St. George, in parentheses it states, he who slays the dragon and can be found almost everywhere in the medieval world, and was in fact Christ on his return. When his period ended, we entered into the time of Satan, which is what we are currently experiencing. While I normally try to stay away from any discussion trying to prove something from the New Testament as factually accurate, I do have to admit that every time I see research on this subject, I get an inner feeling of don't dismiss this. There is something important being presented from this angle. One could say that the new era of Satan began by taking over and using the old buildings of what was this 1,000-year reign of peace, used as expositions, with a big purpose to sweep under the table the memory of the harmonious world that had just been. I am not saying I am completely on board with this theory, but it is compelling enough that should be investigated more closely. Could it be dubious to the fact that to instill and hold on to religious ideologies, new languages, that when I tell you everything is backwards, reverse, upside down, inverted, are you starting to get it now? Let's finish reading this. That also got me to think that the fairs might not have been built or refurbished. In parentheses, it states, at least in the sense we think of it. But in a sense, computer simulated in, as if something in the layout and structures were going to be needed for the game or simulation going forward, like a sort of giant collecting pool of data that was going to be the foundation of the simulation. I know that may seem like much of a stretch to many of you, and I, of course, am not saying it is true, but it is another avenue of curiosity I have regarding the connection of these fairs. It leads to a very key avenue of examination. If this world is a type of simulation, when did it start? For a while now, I wonder how far back our history really goes. What I mean by that is, quite simply, is our world really a few million years old? Question. Even a few 100,000. If this is a type of computer simulation, which it is seeming more and more to be so, then this simulation had a start date when it began. A true year zero, so to speak. So what year was that? There is some speculation that if this theory is true, the start date might in fact be sometime in our 1800s. If true, that would mean every historical event prior to year zero is in fact a Westworld type memory, just as the robots were given backstories to fool them into thinking they were real people with real lives, and year by year events that have shaped them. That is not anywhere close to true, yet they were manufactured in a simulation. You might say the game character, the game character started. And all that is in one's memory is nothing more than an implanted idea. One researcher on simulation theory suggested that the best way to know if one is in a simulation or not is to study history. That is because a programmer would spend more time on the present and the future, where the simulation begins, and would be headed, rather than the past, which would get the least detailed time. Thus, if one were to study history and find it full of holes, unanswered questions, things that cannot be explained, that in fact to him would be a clear indication that the world is a simulation. That has struck me for some time, because that explains our world to a T. Another way to look into this could be, how far back can we in some way verify whatever history we have been given? The point we can no longer handle much verification must be the true year zero. I knew my great uncle, so, and his friend, who's also my uncle. So that's why we say Uncle Tandy and C. That's why I say the Civil War is fictional, and people have a hard time with it. Everything has been rewritten, repainted, changed, and nothing about the history that is taught is the truth. It is to foment and create what we're dealing with now. A very wonderful community from the YouTube channel has given me the chance to share other areas, such as Plato's Cave, spiritual warfare, and the mystery of southern France, and René Lachautot. recall that the story of the priest Sunia and whatever took place in this small remote village happened between 1885 and 1917. That is the exact same time frame as these technological expositions. I do not think that is a coincidence. In fact, I now believe that the study of most anything historical during this late 19th century period is also in some way a look at what the fairs might really have been or what their purpose really was. Something was changing, transforming, or being destroyed and recreated in this period, and the strongest feeling now is that these fairs were in fact the portal of what was before and what came after. That's why I said, with all the beheadings and the wars and the stories and the made-up lies they've given, the beheadings in France went all the way up to 1970. The last two was 40 and 70, one recorded by somebody from their apartment on an 8mm camera. If you want to destroy all that from the old world, wouldn't you hunt every one of them down and execute them? And in order to keep people in check, to instill fear, you would bring the most erroneous lie. And a lot of them were gagged, bags over their heads and everything, so they couldn't speak out and tell the truth. Now you get those stories where they say, do you have any last requests? That's a lie. You may see that in executions today. And these executions are just to keep fear going as far as the corporate interests and the people who have had to deal with broken families and members who have done heinous things. It's like a balance, quasi. But in its origin, the hunts and all those executions that you saw, they said in the 17, but in the 1900s, were all the people from the old world who had put up violent fights, but they weren't valiant enough. As some of the old heads had tired, the young heads didn't know no better what was really going on. And the few that did, they knew to stay quiet. A theory. Anyway, that brings us to today. What might history 50 years in the future look back to for the period from 2020 to 2025 that we are living through? If the world shifts, in parentheses it says, as it seems to be doing, faster than we can follow, what will be our World's Fairs? Markers following these changes, the markers that will present to everyone still in the game of life, what we should know and think. Will our world become a dystopian world of more control, machines, and AI influence, or a world where reconnection with nature, freedom, and a place of harmonious, balanced living is experienced? Hard to say now, but it is clear the old world is gone, and it is not coming back. And that is not necessarily a bad thing. Just because the transition period right now is really rough and crazy, does not mean we should simply wish for the way things were. We should instead want something to grow and develop that is actually sane. But that could not happen unless the majority of the population can see the forces that have been directly influencing this. Notifications. I've got to turn these notifications off. I got to stop that. Directly influencing this realm for its own control. We will know in a few years which road this thing travels. Now, we are living in an absolutely key historical moment if we can ever really understand what these fairs were, why they had them, where the buildings came from, and who were the people that attended. We might have a better idea of what is coming for us all. If he had any clue, and he paid attention to those after the so-called fictional Civil War and the Reconstruction era, the work that our people were doing to rebuild these things. Yes, our people, and teaching them. But he too ignorant to know that. Thanks for all your support over the last years. Perhaps I will write another book in 5 to 10 years that can bring us up to date to where all of this has gone. Best wishes on your journey of inner understanding. Howdy Mikowski, July 2021. And it has photo credits and all the websites and all that stuff that's in here. I don't know if I can hold it up and you can take a picture, or I can hold it up so where you can see, but I want to get into the next reading. Here are some of the websites, okay? And there's oh my goodness. There's a whole bunch. I might have to take pictures and just create a post so you can actually go in there and you can all the numbers. You can look at the HTTP semicolon forward slashes, all the information. There's pages and pages of this stuff, y'all. Like I said, when I was reading this, all that it's underneath all the stuff as far as pictures and the history, as far as what you can see if you want to see these things. And it's just pages and pages and pages. It's all those are just websites. Okay. So I appreciate you taking the time. For those who hung in for the whole Exposing the Expeditions of 1851-1950 revised edition by Howdy Mikowski from its 2019 to the 2021. Now we're going to go ahead and read Iron Republic. This is after the World Beyond Antarctica. Okay. And why is that? It's all nos confoundum, no confusion. Okay. And we're going to go from Iron Republic right into these. We're going to do this again. Why? I find it paramount right now at this time. Also, to comfort you, I don't want you to get no big ideas. We have people who are speaking as if they know the facts. Are the Anunnaki real? I believe very much so. Custodians? Very much so. I believe that it's meant to have a wane or an idea of some existence of something. Is darkness real? Of course. Is it pragmatic to having us in a condition? Absolutely. And if you're having a hard time finding the light within you, it's a real battle. Sad to say and use that word, but we are in a fight, and we should be. And yet we are. Is that intelligence or a way of looking at it intellectually? I don't believe in all that. I believe that you know or you don't know. On Republic, edited by C.J. Austin. Okay. I had somebody hit me in my message again. I don't mind you people hitting me, but make sure that you can articulate and you know exactly what you mean when you're saying something. Because honestly, I don't. If you can't pay attention or it's too hard for you to comprehend, which I get it. I just already made that statement. I don't believe in all this ethnicity, races, and all this other goopy shit. I believe we're all from Earth. Are in Earth. I know that this Earth ain't no round, and I know that this is not the only one. Facts. But I'm also aware, y'all ever watch Dark City? It is bigger than you can even comprehend. And I know some people want to stay stuck in the Matrix. I know they want to enjoy this craziness. I don't expect nothing from you. If that's where you want to be at, stay there. I don't give 2 or 4 or 5 flying F's. If that's your choice, go right there. I'm here for the people who want to believe and think something else, regardless of what may come, to have that comfort. I think that's pretty simplistic, wouldn't you say? Chapter 8. The next morning, I held a conversation with Captain Brent over the telephone and then took the train for Aegea. The duties of his office prevented Professor Morris from accompanying me, and I anticipated rather a dull ride. But I had no sooner entered my compartment than I discovered that I was in the company of an original character. "Peace be unto you, brother," said he as I took my seat opposite to him in the car. "The same to you, my friend," I replied, not knowing what else to say. "Do you live in this God-forsaken city of the plain?" he asked, waving his hand in a general way towards the world outside. "Only a temporary sojourner," I said, surprised at his words, the solemn tones of condemnation with which they were uttered. "Even a temporary sojourn in Sodom will do you hurt, my brother," said he sententiously. "Come out from among them and be ye separate," said the holy book. Lot was only a temporary sojourner in the city of the plain. But if you will read his subsequent history in the divine allegory, you will admit that it could not have been worse with him if he had lived there all his life. These things were written in the divine allegory for our guidance in real life, and we do well to take heed lest we too partake of evil and so bring ruin upon us. Sir, I said, looking at him in astonishment, I am a stranger here, and I must confess that your language is beyond my comprehension. If I may make bold to ask, who and what are you? I perceive that you are indeed a stranger, remarked the man, with an unconscious swell of pride in his voice. Are you, or you would not need to ask that question. I am the voice of one crying in the wilderness, prepare ye the way of the Lord, make his path straight. My name is Moses, and I am the founder and head of the Zionists. Unto us is committed the work of repairing the broken down walls, that people may go in and out in peace. Have you not read the torchlight of truth? I assured him that I had never seen it. Aha, he cried, clenching his fist and shaking it at the universe at large. The powers of darkness conspire to keep the light from the people, but the truth is mighty and will prevail. Read this, as pulling out a newspaper, the first I had seen from a pile under the seat, and handing it to me. And when you have read it, change your garments, wash your flesh in pure water, and come into the fellowship of Zion. I glanced at the paper, which was printed in Old English, and saw that it was made up like many similar American publications of lamentations, proclamations, and execrations, and was against everything in general and the Iron Republic in particular. Why is it, I asked, that you employ newspapers while all other news and general intelligence is diffused by the telephone? Because of a conspiracy, sir, a damnable conspiracy. Pounding his knee with his fist. In the beginning, we put it on the news service, but it was excluded by the Department of Public Utilities on the ground that it monopolized more than half the service, while it was demanded by only a few people. And yet, sir, we put on only about 100,000 words a day. Think of it, sir, the divine truth suppressed because there was much of it, and only a few people wanted to hear it. The very reasons why it should have been given, even if it monopolized the whole service. And we have a Zionist. I don't quite agree with you there, I interrupted. As citizens of the Iron Republic, as I understand it, and contributing to its maintenance, I should say that you were entitled to the benefit of the news service in the proportion that your numbers compare with the population of the country at large. No more than that, but certainly that much if it is the ideally representative government that it is claimed to be. God's curse on the ideally representative government it is claimed to be, shouted my strange companion violently. What does it represent, sir? Men, not God? The human and not the divine. God is the creator of all things in heaven and earth and should rule in both, not men. I am happy to say that Zionists do not contribute to the maintenance of such a government, except insofar as they are compelled to buy the use of the public utilities. They have things in common and hold themselves aloof from the exchanges so that they cannot be taxed for the support of such an iniquitous Babylon. My dear sir, I remarked quietly, I am a stranger to you, and your creed, and do not wish to enter into any discussion. But I cannot conceive how the creator of the world can rule in it except as he does by the laws of nature, which seem to me to be inadequate for the government of a civilized state. You cannot see how the creator can rule the world, he exclaimed. None are so blind as those who will not see. Read my book on theory of divine government. How did he rule Israel in the divine allegory? Was it by voting and drawing lots and putting Smith, Smate, and Smathers in office over his people because they happened to draw their seals out of a will? I say no. He called and anointed his servants to rule over his heritage, to give laws and make his will known to men. Ah, I exclaimed, catching his drift. You mean that all rulership should be in the hands of those only who are called and inspired for that purpose? And we see where that gets you. That is exactly what I mean, he answered. If the people are ruled by men who are divinely called to that high function, they must be ruled according to the will of the supreme ruler, which is the only perfect way. But how could we know who were called to these high offices? I ventured to inquire. How did the people know in the divine allegory that Moses and Samuel and Paul and David were called? Because it was revealed to these men that they made it known to the people. How do I know that I have been called to rule this nation in the name of the Lord? Because it has been revealed to me, and I must make it known to a stubborn and stiff-necked race. Whether they will hear or whether they will forbear. The powers of darkness are leagued against the truth, but the arm of the Lord is not shortened, and he will triumph gloriously over his enemies. What does that sound like to you all? So if they won't listen, I need all the gold put in the basement. You go out there and you execute them. So I mentally ejaculated. Cranks are not the result of environment, but of our common human nature, for they breed them even in the Iron Republic. He was a crank. My friend, I remarked, not wishing to argue with him, as I had some experience with this genius in American. I have no controversy with you, being at the present time a student, a humble pupil of any of any who will teach me. But several times you have referred to a divine allegory. What do you mean by that? The Bible? The divine allegory, my brother, is the holy word that has been given to man in figures and emblems for his guidance in the stern realities of actual life. It is called the Bible a word and gives us knowledge of the will and relations of the divine to the human. But I ask, why do you call it an allegory? Is it not a record of the real facts of God's dealings with man? Why, certainly not, he replied. That was impossible. But why impossible? I persisted. Simply because there is no possible basis for such real facts. Where is your Egypt and Palestine and Jerusalem and Babylon in real life? Where is your Dead Sea and Mount Sinai and Rome and Athens? And he gave me a look of pity. Where? I retorted, somewhat confused by his confident air, bluffed, as we say in American. Why? They are where they have always been, of course. Egypt is in Africa. Palestine is in Asia. Rome is in Italy, and Athens is in Greece. What's the matter with you, anyhow? Been eating prunes? So, my brother, with a commiserating leer, do you cover one impossibility with another? Where then is your Africa, Asia, Italy, and Greece? Where are they? I replied, still further confused by his domineering insistence. Why, they are where they have always been, too, of course. Well, my brother, you asked me to teach you, and yet you appear to know far more than I do. I have been through every province of the country and have circumnavigated its coasts, and have failed to find these places or anything answering to them. Why, man, I exclaimed in amazement, they are not in the Iron Republic, but on the other side of the world. I tell you, I have been all through and all around it, said he contemptuously. And I repeat, they do not exist. What? I asked. Being now convinced that the man was daft, do you mean to say that there is no world beyond the confines of this Iron Republic? I mean to say that this is the world, and if there is any other, it has never been discovered. Why, my friend, I exclaimed, your own histories must record the fact that this country was settled by colonists from England as late as the 16th century. Lies, said he, snapping his fingers contemptuously, scholastic lies to deceive the credulous and make foundation for evil practices. The children of the truth know better. Now see here, I said, warming up and getting interested in spite of the whole thing. You have literature, hundreds of books, histories, philosophies, poems that were written in other countries. How then can you deny their existence? Lies, all, he replied, waving his hand scornfully, as if to brush them out of the way. All lies, my brother. You have had ships and men come here from America during your lifetime. There are men here now that were born in that country. Excuse me. All lies here already, he reiterated. Cunningly devised fables to deceive the unwary, but the children of the truth know better. The devil, I am from America myself. Lies all, and he stopped. Thunderation, I cried, seizing him by the collar and yanking him out of the seat. Do you mean to call me a lie? Help, help, he shouted lustily. The man is crazy. You are crazy yourself, you infernal old loon, I shouted, shaking him all over the seats. Friends, fellowmen, save me from the clutches of this maniac, he appealed to the other passenger. Come and take this damned old lunatic off my hands, I shouted, still holding on to him. And so we surged back and forth, and other passengers began climbing over seats to get to us. A gong sounded, and a moment later, the car ran down the siding at Asia, and the doors flew open. This, I believe, is supposed to be a picture, a real one. Next, we get into chapter 9. Man, I love that. That's a good read right there. I tried to. I'm just going to highlight the chapter. Yeah. But do you see what I'm saying? If I was to have an island and take about 500 children and teach them that blue was red and red was blue, pink was black and black was pink, and in 3 or 4 generations of all them generations learning that, some thousands of people later, and brought them here, there would be a small war at hand. Oh, trust me, you wouldn't be able to stop it. Now we're going to go into the vices of the other. And we're going to start with the navigator who crossed the ice walls. You would think I would read this before. That's not how it works. And y'all may enjoy this, I hope. The navigator who crossed the ice walls, worlds beyond Antarctica. Nos Confundum. Claudio Nocelli, Nos Confundum, YouTube channel, Nos Confundum, if you want to look at that. But I do the reading in English. That's him. The navigator who crossed the ice walls, worlds beyond Antarctica, Nos Confundum. No confusion. So we're going to go right into chapter 1. Now, this is the map. You see, I have a large map here. I have a few of them. And I was going to make copies. I couldn't. I was going to mail them out, but we'll get to that. All right. Now, supposedly, the zones around that are unknown. Okay. Chapter 1, to Antarctica. My name is William Morris, Professor Morris in Iron Republic. Yes. And the story that you are about to read, and you heard him say 1600. So if that was the 1800, whatever, you got to remember he's World War II. That's when he went. So Mr. Morris gets to live quite a little longer, doesn't he? My name is William Morris, and the story that you're about to read, it is probably going to modify the current way of seeing the world. I know most of people will find it incredible, and believe me, even having experienced this adventure, having seen it with my own eyes and with all my senses, it was also incredible to myself, but the evidence is irrefutable for those who want to see it, and the memories indelible. Such evidence will be presented, and science will also change its perspective. Another path will be open in the human mind forever. As for my personal life, I was a member of the Continental Navy. For those who know, you know what that is, right? I'm not going to put on my Navy hat. Y'all know I'm a retired Navy. So anyway, did a research on it. As for my personal life, I was a member of the Continental Navy, as the American naval force was called in the Revolutionary War. Revolutionary War, people. I was married to Lucy, and We were thinking of enlarging the family, but the war postponed every plan, as it usually does. With that pain that probably feel cutting through the root of that shining tree that gives life to the garden, that immense pain that produces to move away from your loved ones and go to hell itself. Now, one peaceful night after the surrender of Saratoga, we were sailing through the northern Atlantic Ocean, rounding the islands on our way to Charleston Harbor. The full moon was the only light that illuminated our way, and during that night, thousands of stories and anecdotes arose among the boys over a little whiskey to calm the anxieties of a raw war. Even then, there was talk of James Cook's voyages and his obsession with crossing the Antarctic Circle, although it was not clear who was behind his funding, or why the obsession. As I was not well steeped in the subject, the talk had not captivated me enough. I did not pay much attention, and the boys went on. So I'm going to highlight that again because I used the green one and it faded. Like, what kind of green highlighter is that? Here we go. There we go. That'll hold up. Okay. I was not well steeped in the the talk had not captivated me enough. I did not pay much attention, and the boys went on with the stories. Captain Butler, well respected in the group, joined in the selling stories by commenting that it was possible that there was a passage somewhere in the polar circle, and that this passage could be connected to other worlds. He said it seriously without a moment's hesitation. Now, my attention turned to him, and the 5 or 6 of us in the cabin were speechless, listening to his story. We expected him to say that it was a joke, but that never happened. We could not believe that a captain was seriously telling that there could be lands behind the Antarctic Circle. Butler commented that he knew from good sources at the highest levels that they were researching and funding voyages to penetrate the harsh climate and barriers in the southern latitudes to find possible land and perhaps civilizations beyond the Antarctic continent, and that they were in a hurry to carry out these missions as many civilian navigators were circling the area and did not look favorably on anyone else coming along. Now, this story was even longer and in great detail. He also commented that he observed with his own eyes a map that indicated the coordinates that could be the opening of such a passage. And although he was stupefied by the story, and I think the others too, the fatigue and stress generated by a war conflict could not be wasted. It was the perfect moment of happiness that generates a breach of peace to be able to sleep a few hours. Now, time went by, and after the famous war, many of the ships used by the Continental Navy were rented, destroyed, and captured or sold. At that time, I was a person of good economic standing, especially after a war that we could say triumphant, if after a war can be called so. I made an offer for one of them and managed to keep it, although my colleagues always scoffed at me because of that. As they say, it was ridiculously high for such an old ship. The idea of the exploration trip to the south after Butler's story generated even more interest for me to bid and keep the ship. Although it needed repairs, and therefore some extra money, I felt no guilt as I felt it as an investment. Although I did not know the real danger of such a trip, I needed to provide myself with a great navigation equipment. Although Lucy was not happy about this plan, I was planning to leave Charleston by the end of November and head with a few stops along the way, straight to the Antarctic continent. Now, during the idea of forming the team, I talked to former colleagues. Some of them made the most ridiculous excuses, and I don't blame them either. The idea of such a trip was really not encouraging. Two of them, though, who were there that same night that Butler told the story, wanted to join as soon as I told them about the plan. But the most difficult part was to convince Butler, who had knowledge in navigation based on his experience and leadership, and also knew the coordinates where we should go. Now, after gathering courage for a few weeks, I contacted the captain to tell him about my project and add him to the group. It was difficult to convince the captain of such a plan, and although his voice I noticed some enthusiasm, he declined my offer, and it was like that for a while. Unexpectedly, on the morning of October 11th, he showed up at my home with another companion named Fent. Fent. He had maps that I had never seen and was full of documents that very few eyes had read. He told me that he accepted the deal, but that he was willing to understand that it could only be a one-way trip. Then I understood that we had to take this trip professionally. The adventure was about to begin. Tomorrow, we'll get into chapter 2, The Custodians. Now, some of y'all have remembered the book that I showed you based upon the custodians. I read it, and I know some of you were like, God dang, how did Red get these books? And I actually had the book on the custodians before I even bought these books. And where's that? This is actually, that's the Heaven Bearers. Okay. It's over here. Anyway, let's put this away because we're going to keep reading. We're going to read all these. So next one's going to be chapter 2, The Custodians. Let me pull this out. I've got so many books right here, y'all. I know y'all would be like, what the fuck in the heck is Red? When I read, if I'm not up on my bed, if I'm right here, you know what I mean. Yeah. Wow. Oh no, man, I gotta read that to y'all too. Man, we're gonna have a readathon. That's what I need to do instead of taking little stops because I get frustrated with some of y'all. Okay, no, not that book. Definitely not that one. And that's gonna be a good read. I would love to read that to y'all, but y'all not ready for that. Oh, y'all definitely not ready for that one. Oh no, y'all. Ooh. Y'all be on lost y'all's mind. If I read that book, y'all, I'm not trying to control y'all and make y'all believe in anything. I just want you to pay attention and do the research and then look at things, even ominously, okay? And there's a benefit in all of them, okay? There's benefit. Don't worry about my little dramatical effects. Custodians of Time, for those who remember me reading this, it's the same thing. And what they do, the games they play, how they render you. Yeah. So, the time and age we're in is very confusing, isn't it? Well, be not confused. I think it's mirrored. If it's not, it's the Jesuits in North America in the 17th century. How plans were scripted, how things unfolded. And when you hear Jesuits, the first thing you think about is Robin Hood, men in tights. No, that's not what it looked like. So we'll get into chapter 2, and then later on we'll come back in and we'll get into an original history of ancient America, 13th Tribe, Arthur Kessler, and William Cooper. And then after that, we'll go ahead, and I might just follow on to read the Gods of Eden, the Anunnaki, blah, 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 and the Hathors. They all actually fit right together. And I appreciate y'all taking the time. We're at 54 minutes. I'm going to shout out the people who made it in here. Snoo, it's so good to see you here, hun. Just change it. You change it and put your ding up there. Hey, Mikey. That means he's probably watching too. Ganja. What's going on, beloveds? Very much so. The arrow of Satan. Hey, original Lone Wolf. Much love, family. What's going on? Yes, I love that face of Halloween. The Giants kicked their ass. Well, you remember the reading, right? Well, there's a lot of things that aren't what they seem to be, and we're just going to read and enjoy it. Appreciate the Cashapp, yes. Elevate your minds for your souls. And I know people want. I have a story to tell, but we're nowhere. I don't think nobody's nowhere ready. Sadly, I say that. Yeah, I say that sadly. I don't say that with an optimistic and happy heart. People are very ignorant. Is there a magical word? Of course, I got books, dummy books, that I can convince, and I can probably have 500,000 people here. I don't want to do that. That's not the purpose. Then it will become satire, and everybody else will start talking about certain things that like they've been doing, sharing, not being honest, because trauma. Everybody's watching, and they're watching other people, and they realize these people ain't say nothing, and then they watch me talk about something, and these people run and start doing their little thing. Can't make that up. So, let's do Century 75. What's going on, beloved? Anyway, I just want to say to the ladies that come, and anybody who check your notification your bell, and make sure other people know. And to my brothers, always 2 and 1. I'm gonna shut this down. I'm actually going downstairs. I'm making some lobster Florentine and with some pesto. And I'm gonna tear it up. I want to do some more curls and do some more chin ups. And love y'all, man. I know I drive a hard bargain, right? Well, I'm gonna keep y'all as confused as possible. At the same time, in order for you to become enlightened, you must walk through the confusion to find the enlightenment. The enlightenment's within you. It was put there. We are a different people. Share this. My new subscribers, I love y'all. If you have a religion, if you want to talk religious stuff, you hit me up in my Gmail, and I will set up a witch call where we all come in and we could talk religious stuff. It's not to dismiss nor to push, but to have the conversations in a way that is communicable. Whether it's New or Old Testament, Torah, Book of Satan, the Book of Dead. I actually have the Book of Dead. But regardless of whatever it is, we can have these, and I have a couple of Satan books. We can have these conversations. We can illuminate, or we can fall into the Jannah. We can be part of the Hawa. The choice is yours. Hit my Gmail. I'll respond. My brothers hit me up all the time with music. I wish he was here communicating and talking. My love, we're gonna get through this, one way or the other. All right. I love you guys.